This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for the afternoon of July 18th, 2022. I'm Alex Brown. A new study co-authored by an associate professor of accounting at the IU Kelley School of Business says a provision of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 did little to affect CEO pay. Bridget Stomberg says the law removed an exemption that allowed companies to deduct performance-based pay for executives.
We were looking for a reduction in performance pay and an increase in salary. And then third, if you give an executive more guaranteed pay, then the total level of their pay should go down. And we really didn't find any evidence of that.
She says the results show Congress may have overestimated the tax motivations of public companies. Bloomington-based Prospect XR has received a $20,000 investment from Indianapolis-based Elevate Ventures. The startup, which builds tools for businesses, communities, and individuals to create and manage 3D virtual environments, says it will use the funding to develop software and explore market potential. The Indiana Economic Development Corporation has named Selena Scardina Executive Vice President of External Engagement. Previously, Scardina served as Chief Customer Success Officer for Herff Jones in Indianapolis, a provider of graduation and educational products and services. Inside Indiana Business Radio On Demand is made possible by the following.
IBJ Media delivers business news covering central Indiana and the entire state. The Indianapolis Business Journal and Inside Indiana Business are now part of the same family. Look to the IBJ for in-depth coverage of central Indiana's business community and tap into Inside Indiana Business for stories that extend throughout Indiana. 2 resources, unlimited business insights that help you stay informed and get ahead. Learn more at IBJ.com and InsideIndianaBusiness.com.
17 lawmakers will cast votes in the upcoming special session but will not be returning to the State House in 2023. Here's Gary Dick.
Huntington GOP Representative Dan Leonard met with his likely new state legislator Friday. Larissa Sweet defeated him in May, ending his 20-year legislative career. But he wants to keep her in the loop on what might be a historic special session, the last votes he will take and ones he didn't expect to be making. Although Indiana's GOP supermajority is likely to find consensus on anticipated bills targeting abortion and inflation relief. Andrew Downs, an associate professor of political science at Purdue University Fort Wayne, says those legislators who won't be returning could help shape discourse around the issues without having as much to lose. Governor Eric Holcomb initially called for legislators to convene for a special legislative session to consider a taxpayer refund on July 6, but leadership delayed the start until July 25th to give themselves more time to craft anti-abortion legislation. This is Gary Dick for Inside Indiana Business Radio.
Dr. Julia Visor, an assistant professor of clinical emergency medicine at the Indiana University School of Medicine, will become the first female medical chief for IndyCar and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway when she takes over next season. Visor has spent the past year assisting Dr. Jeffrey Billows, the series' longtime medical director, who announced during the drivers' meeting for Sunday's race in Toronto that he will be stepping down. Visor began her work with IndyCar and IMS in 2018 during an elective training program. Billows has been undergoing treatment for parotid salivary cancer since November 2020 and wants to spend more time with his family. He plans to help Visor in a part-time capacity as he continues treatment. Could Noblesville's population double in a few years? Mayor Chris Jensen thinks so. The state's 10th largest city has seen $1 billion in private investment since 2020, and Jensen says there's room to grow.
Noblesville is about 50% developed currently. So we extend all the way from the Westville border on Gray Road all the way out to I-69. We are now under a new sewer agreement. That's the fun stuff you get to deal with as a local leader, flushing toilets. Under a new sewer agreement out on the east side near our friends at Ruoff Music Center and Exit 210, where we'll continue to see major investment, not only in the corporate campus and great companies coming to Noblesville, but residential as well. So I truly believe that we will, over time, probably double our city's population, but we have to manage that going forward, and that's a trick.
In 2020 alone, more than $145 million in projects were announced, including the Nexus apartment complex, the Village at Federal Hill, and the Lofts on 10th. Indy meteorologists Bob and Kevin Gregory are this week's guests on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC, a weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports and entertainment, and beyond. Available now from your favorite podcast provider. I'm Alex Brown for Inside Indiana Business Radio On Demand.